Share that link to the group. I ain't got my backup phone charged up today.
Con, I got you.
Get something playing while we're waiting.
Can't tell me nothing about life if you don't know pain. How you gonna try to coach if you don't know the game? You gonna get on the field and pick the wrong plays. Instead of seeking help, you wanna do your own thing. When we young, we all feel like we know it all. I was the same way and ended up behind them walls. I lost my grandma and grandpa while I was gone. Didn't get to say my goodbyes, had to remain strong. While I was away, my baby mama gave birth to my daughter. When I needed to be around, I couldn't cause I was locked up. Got out and when I thought things wasn't getting no worse, my daughter mama got sick. Started to feel like I was cursed. A few months later, cancer would take her from earth. I took life for granted and ended up getting hurt. Pain. Time is something you can lose and can never get back. Pain. This world will hit you with pain and you can't hit back. Can't tell me nothing about life if you don't know pain, pain. Yeah. No, you can't tell me nothing about life if you don't know pain, pain, pain. No pain, no. No, you can't tell me nothing about life if you don't know pain, pain. No, you can't tell me nothing about life if you don't know pain, pain, pain. No pain, no gain. Changed my life, but unfortunately my home is stuck in the street. Got the phone call by Tracy, long live DT. He got killed on the same block we hustled on. He was like my little brother, man, now he gone. Last time I saw him, I told him to be careful. Cause them printed in Mobile streets deadly. He just had bought a Camaro and got a good job. Trying to be a better man, but his life got raw. Had one foot in, then get the chance to pull it out. They caught him lacking, then get the chance to pull it out. Growing up in the hood, feel like it's no other route. If you still in the streets, I pray you make it out. Don't get trapped in the trap. It's a setup. Satan unleashing the tax and he won't let up. I can't alter your path, but I hope you heat my heads up. And no matter what happens, just keep your head up. Can't tell me nothing about life if you don't know pain, pain. Yeah. No, you can't tell me nothing about life if you don't know pain, pain, pain. No pain, no. No, you can't tell me nothing about life if you don't know pain, pain. No, you can't tell me nothing about life if you don't know pain, pain, pain. No pain, no gain.
Shalom, shalom. I'm gonna get some shares going out while you get ready to get yourself started.
If you like some.
Shalom, Ox.
Shalom.
Shalom, family.
Shalom. All right, I'm gonna get my screen shared. All right, King, you can let me know whenever I can start out.
Come on. Let's see. I guess we'll give it another countdown because it look like people are a little late today. I'll give it another countdown. right, we should be good to go. Shalom, family. Shalom, everybody that's just joining the stream. If you could go ahead and like and also share the live to your social media.
Khan, shalom. Let me get my screen, share it real quick. Khan, can y'all brothers see my screen?
Khan,
all praises. Cool. All right, so first and foremost, I'm going to start by giving all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, and I'll do so in the name of his beloved son, Yahweh Shai. This is another Hebrew lesson, Biblical Hebrew lesson 4, and it's titled Reading, Counting, and More, because we're gonna go into a little bit more than just reading and counting. So, start a slideshow. And it's loading on my screen. Can y'all brothers see it?
Khan, we see it.
Khan, all praises. Khan, so let's jump into this. So there's a table of contents. What we're going to be going into is first the intro, then the letters, vocabulary, sentences, then the reading. That's just reading of the Hebrew text, and then translating of the Hebrew text, so we actually parse out or like analyze how we come to like understand each component of a particular text that we're reading in the Hebrew language, right? And then next we're going to go into some counting. I'm going to count cardinal and ordinal numbers, and cardinal and ordinal numbers, that's just dealing with like positional numbers and like actual like quantity, like 1, 2, 3, etc. And then you have first, second, and third, and so on. And then we're gonna go into the word of the day, and then I'll display the references, and then we'll be finished. So let's start with the first with the intro. And Ak, if you could you read the page?
Khan. Give me a second.
Khan, for sure.
All right.
Khan, and if you haven't already, please like the video and subscribe.
All right. It says, in the last lesson, we went into the alphabet, vocabulary, and some translating. And this week, we will be doing more of the same. And we will also be learning numbers in Hebrew as well. For anyone that wants to look over the lesson from last time, I will place the link below.
Right. And so I'll make this Google slide available. I'll place it in the comments. I did that the previous lesson where I placed the link to the Google Doc or the Google slide in the comments, and it's open for anyone to click on and view. So I'll be doing the same with this one. So let's move on.
All right. Let's go over some letters and vocabulary that we learned and start with Alap. The first letter of the alphabet, or Alap Bayath, is Alap, pronounced Alap. This letter in pictographic form is an oxen head, which is supposed to represent strength, might, and also a leader or chief, or a verb meaning to learn or teach. Next is the letter Bayath. This letter in pictographic form is a tent or house, which represents a place where one dwells and also a family. Abba, Ba, Abba, which means father or chief, and Ba, which means to come or to go. which means father came or father went.
Right. So we went into this last class, but I placed it back in here just I guess for a slight reminder and review. But we have an example of the first two letters of the Hebrew alphabet being Alap Bayath, and we see a phrase at the bottom right here where it says Abba Ba'a, which means father came or father went. Abba meaning father, and then Ba'a meaning went or came. So let's move on to the next one.
Next letter is the Mom. The picto form is a set of waves of water. It carries the meaning of sea or might, mighty and massive. Also, in certain cases, the mom at the end of the word of a word, in compound cases, pluralizes a word. Next letter is Yod. The picto form is an arm and hand, and the meaning is to work, make, or throw, and these are the functions of an arm and hand. Mayabah, which means who came, went. Abayabah, meaning my father came, went.
Right. So we right here we have more examples of letters being placed together to make words, and then being words being placed together to make phrases or sentences. The first one we have we see right here is and we see Maya and then and then we see next Maya Ba'a, which means who came or who went, and then we see Abaya Ba'a, which means my father came or my father went. And something to keep in mind is the suffix. We see the ya right here. With the suffix ya, usually denotes or means is it represents possession. So when you put the ya at the end, or when you see the yod or the yad at the end, that's indicating of me or mine, right? So that's why it translates to, or it means my father came or my father went. So just these are just subtle things that you'll notice the more you read the text. If you start to pay attention to certain suffixes and prefixes that are placed on certain words, you'll be able to deduce what the particular word means. All right, but let's continue on.
Khan. The next letter is Non. The picto form is a seed sprout, and it represents a continuation of a new generation. Letter is Ha. The letter in pictographic form is a man standing with his arms out, and the word means to behold, but can also mean to breathe or sigh, as expressions toward a great sigh. Salakia, towards a great sight. Ayah, which means where. Ban, which means sun. Anya, which indicates I, as in I am. Haya, which means she. Ba, or ba'a, which means came. Nabaya'a, which means prophet. Ma, which means what.
All right, so we see just more of the same. That's what these next few lessons are going to consist of. We're going to see letters, and then letters placed together to form words, and then words form together to make phrases or sentences. And so we see more of the same. we see here with the nun, and then the ha'ah, which that would just make the ha and the na sound. And we see a few words. First being ayah, which means where. Ban, which is son or child. Usually it indicates son, but it can mean child. We have anya, which is used as I, and it's indicating, eyes and I am. And then we have haya'ah, which is she. And then we have ba'a, which means came. And then nabaya'ah, which means prophet. And then we have ma, which means what. So these are just more examples of letters, and us, being able to see how letters, they come to form together to make words. And then later on, we're going to see, the sentences that come about.
All right, ready for me out?
Yeah, kind of Salaki, my fault.
Kind of. Maya Haya, which means who is she. Banya Ba'a, which means my son came. Anya Abba, which means I am a father. Aya Abaya, which means where is my father. Ma Nabaya'a, which means what is a prophet. Hana Baya'a Baya, which means the prophet came. Note, in the respective bullet points that contain the word is or am, that they are in brackets. This is because in Hebrew, these phrases don't exist, referring to am, is, are, etc. So for this reason, we have to add these in English to make sense, grammatically speaking. Also note that English indefinite articles like a and an don't exist in the Hebrew. Also keep in mind that in bullet 6, it starts with the ha, which means Salaki, which means the as a prefix, hence the prophet.
Khan, the water. And yeah, so this is just based on the previous slide, is utilizing the words that we used or that we learned in the previous slide. And so just to harp a little bit on what I noted down here, when we start to see certain wording in or certain words in brackets, as far as the English is concerned, it's very important to take note of these things. It's like it's a little bit loud on my background, but it's very important to take note of these things because we have to understand that the Hebrew is a very straightforward and simple language. Even when you read, like in the like where you see the commandments given that in Exodus 20, a lot of these Hebrew texts, when you're reading the verses within the Hebrew, it's literally just saying, la'ah, something, whether if it's murder or steal, it's basically, if you just read it straight up, it's just saying, steal, because the Hebrew is just that straightforward. It's only when we have to bring it over to the English to make it make sense, in the language that we speak, that you start seeing these the sentences, start to expand, and these words like is and am and things of those sort added. But again, last bullet, we see how when you place the ha in front of a word, or the ha is the prefix, that indicates the, or that prefix means the. So that's why we see right here it says Hana Baya'a, that's the prophet. So just to speak on that a little bit, right? But we can move to the next slide. And if you could you read this one?
Salaki, my bad, I was on mute.
You
Let's go into the letters. And we will start with the letter Lam. The picto form is a shepherd's staff, and a shepherd's staff was used to direct or pull/push towards a direction and for protection against predators. The prefix La is used to mean to or toward. The letter L is derived from the Lam. Layala, night. Allah, God. Mayam, water. Aman, believe. Hana, hear. Yam, see. Night, night came, which is read Layala Ba'a. Water is in the sea, which is read Mayam Bayam. My son came to me, which is read Banya Ba'a Laya. Ba'a Laya. Mother came in the night, which is read Ba'a Balayala. My father and my mother are here, which is read Abaya Wa Amya Hana.
So these are some examples of receiving vocabulary. We learn the letter, and we get the vocabulary, and then we see the sentence formed out of the vocabulary and the letter that we learned. Just a quick point. Matter of fact, and we're actually going to touch a little bit on the yam a little bit later, going into the plural. So I won't jump the gun yet. All right, but anybody with any questions, definitely place them in the chat. I'm looking at the chat as well, so I definitely will take any questions. All right, but you can move on to the next one.
God. The next letter is the Ra'ash, pronounced Ra'ash. The picto form is a head of a man, and the representation is of a man or the top, also the beginning or first. This letter fathers the R from Latin. The next letter is the Shan, pronounced Sha'an. The picto form are teeth, and Sha'an carries the meaning of teeth or sharp. Also, it can carry the meaning of chewing as well, which is a function of teeth. Shah, which means prince or ruler. Shalawam, which means peace, completeness. Amar, which means said or to utter, masculine. Bara'a, which means to shape or create. Sham, which means name or reputation. Amara, which means to utter or say, feminine. Shamayam, which means heaven or heavens, sky. Yawam, which means day. Awar, which means light.
So again, it's the same formula. We have the letters introduced, and then the words made, and then next we're gonna go into the sentences. We have Shar, Shalawam, Amar, Bara'ah, Sham, um, Amara, Shemayim, Yawam, and Awar. So these are the words that we learn in this slide. And in the next slide, we're going to see sentences that come out of these words that we're using, or that we learned within this first slide right here. So we can move on to the next one.
Khan. Shah. Is this the same one? No.
No, it's not the same.
No, I see it's different.
Yeah.
All right. Shah, which means prince or ruler. Shalom, which means peace or completeness. Amar, which means said or to utter, masculine. Bara'ah, which means to shape or create. Sham, which means name or reputation. Amara, which means to utter or say, feminine. Shamayam, which means heaven, heavens, or sky. Yawam, which means day. Awar, which means light. Ruler of peace, Shar, Shalawam. Day and night, Yawam, Walayala. My name is Levi, Shamya, Lawyer. What is his name? Ma Shamwa. His name is Abraham. Shamwa, Abraham. God created heaven. Bara'ah Allah Shamayam.
Khan. So, right here we see the vocabulary or the words that we acquired in the previous slide listed up at the top, and then we see phrases or sentences that are, taken away from the words that we used, or that we learned rather. And also, this is another showing of how the Hebrew language is very straight to the point. We don't see any word for of right here within this text. It's just literally the word shar, then the word shalom, right? Prince, peace. And then, that would indicate, okay, Prince of Peace. That's how we will view it through the lens of reading it in English, because we just, based on grammatical standards, we don't just, read sentences and phrases like that. We place it a little bit differently, but in the Hebrew, it's a lot more straightforward and honestly a lot easier to just get straight to the point within the Hebrew language. And then we see, similarly for day and night, and then my name is Levi, and so on and so forth. But we can move on to the next one. And if any of y'all brothers got anything y'all want to add or say, definitely feel free. But we can move on to the next one. And so this is just a chart. Just going over the sounds and the look of the letters, or the what you would call the form of the letters, as well as the sound. So these are two characteristics that we can continuously have to study. One being the form, or how they look, and then the sound, right? And we see the sounds up here. And primarily, I believe I've said this in prior lessons, but I want to make sure I stress it and emphasize it, that when we're studying the biblical text, what we're going to see more of when we're looking at just, any type of manuscript that contains the Hebrew text, we're going to see, what's called the Assyrian Hebrew language, or this script right here, which some refer to as the box script, or, some might refer to as the modern script. This is what we're going to have to make sure we're acquainting ourselves with, and making sure that we can read this. We can see that, this would produce an a ba, the ga, the da, and so on and so forth. All the letters, and then making sure that we're able to dictate or differentiate. That's a better word. Differentiate certain letters that look the same. And if you can refer to the last lesson I did. I have a few slides that help with the letter comparison, right? But the more that you practice just reading this text, not just the English transliteration with the letters, but actually reading the Hebrew text itself, the easier that it'll get to read the actual Hebrew text, right? But we can continue on to the next slide. Salakia, if you could you read this slide?
Khan, I got you. The text we will be reading is Genesis chapter 1, verse 1. And below I will place the Hebrews text and also the transliteration, as well as the verse. Genesis 1 and 1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Ba Ra'ash Yah Ba Ra'ah Alahayim Ath Hashemayim Wa'ath Ha Arataza Salakia.
Khan, beautiful job. Khan, so right here, this is the text that we're going to be reading, and then afterwards, I'm going to display how we will parse this particular text, and just also for reference as well, if anybody wants to see, because I'm gonna make sure that I don't go like super deep into like the Hebrew breakdown here. I want to make sure I keep it very simple, but I have a video on my channel. I'll place it in the chat for anybody that wants to see a more, I guess, complex breakdown of the Hebrew text here, and it's placed in the chat for anybody that wants to look at it. But the text that we're going to look at tonight is Genesis 1 and 1, which reads, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth." That's in the New KJV, and it reads, "Badar Ashiath, Badar Alahayim Ath Hashemayim Wa'ath Ha'arataza." And in the next few slides, we're just going to go through each part of the verse, and we're going to just dissect just the meaning, and we're going to just work through like how we would translate it. And this process is called parsing. It's literally just analyzing the text that's placed in front of you. So you're parsing it out and seeing how the verse works from an analytical standpoint. So let's continue on. You don't have to read. You don't necessarily have to read the text at the top. You could just start where it says the first part of this text.
Khan. The first part of this text we can focus on is the first letter, if the first word, which is ba. And if you've seen the previous lessons, you may remember that the bayaf, ba as a prefix, denotes the word meaning in. So the takeaway is that the first part of the text is in. So moving forward, I will put below the progress while translating. Currently in.
Khan. So right here we have the text, the text in the Hebrew right here highlighted, and then below we have the transliteration, or how we would sound it out based on like the letters that we have in the English, so we can best we can best associate the sounds with the script, right? So first thing we're paying attention to is this first letter right here that's highlighted and underlined. It has a little underline up here. Let me try to just try to go. Oh, I can't go get any closer, but right, it's highlighted all the way at the right, and it's the ba. And And if you remember from previous lessons, more than likely, and also I think in the last lesson, I placed all the references from the previous lessons I did as far as the Hebrew, which show the meanings of the letters and things of those sort. We see that the ba, it means, or it indicates, when it's used as a prefix, it indicates the phrase or the word in, and it's the letter bayath. And so now this part is very simple. This first part of the text, we have ba to start off this first word, which is Badar Ashiaf right here. So we have ba, which just, it translates to in. All right, so currently we're at in, right? So let's move to the next one. And for this one, you could you could do the same thing. You don't have to read
that next.
Yeah.
Next, we'll look at two words. We have first Ra'ash, and this denotes head or chief or summit more mechanically. The Yaf at the end of Ra'ash shows that it has a feminine ending. We have Bara'ah, which is a verb that translates to create, but literally means to fill or fashion / shape. The fattening or filling up of something. The filling of the earth in Genesis 1 with sun, moon, plants, animals, etc., and the filling of man with life in the image of God. Paul, Nephal, Hiphil, Pail, create, creator, choose, make, cut down, dispatch, done, fat.
The water. And this source right here, and I'll put it at the end as well, in the references tab or in the references slide. But this is from Ancient Hebrew Lexicon of the Bible. That's by Jeff Benner. But this, so we've already covered the first, which is ba. The next part is Ra'ashiaf. So ba Ra'ashiaf. So that's the first one. And we see there that this first word being Ra'ash, this would denote, or typically it would mean head or chief or summit, more mechanically. All right. So that's more of like a literal, like just a literal, like 1 + 1 = 2 meaning, right? So and also you would see, there's a good book. I'll loosely quote it, or I'll loosely refer to it. It's by Jeff Benner. It's called Genesis in the Hebrew in mechanical form, or something along those lines. And I can place the source later on. But it actually would read, it translates Ra'ash as in summit, right? So it doesn't even translate it as beginning, right? So this word literally, it would come out as chiefly or summit or first. And then the Yath, as it's mentioned, that just that's it's a feminine ending, but as I've touched on, and other times, and what we're going to touch on more is we can't always rely on a feminine or a masculine ending. People with there are men with hands, and hands hands is called a feminine word in the Hebrew. So that's something to also look out for. But the Yath is a feminine ending, and what we're going to see as we look at different words tonight, most likely, is the Yath is going to be placed on for the feminine form, right? But moving on to the next word, we have bara'ah, which is a verb, and this translates to create. But the literal or the mechanical meaning is to fashion or to fill or to shape, right? And then that's why I quote the source here. And even when you look at go into like any Strongs, like if you want to look at like a source like Bible Hub, or you want to look at the Blue Letter, when you look at that particular word, it'll actually say, and I'm shooting off the hip, but it'll actually say fashion, as God did, or something like that, right? So it'll actually apply it to what was done, by the Most High, via the fashion that He did it, whether it was through Yahweh or through angels, etc. Right? So let's continue on. And you could read this one, and just the same deal, where it says we have.
Con. All right. So it says we have Alahayam, and this noun is the subject and is responsible for the fashioning or creating that we see, bara'ah. And to remind us of what we talked about last lesson, we learned that the Hebrew language, in regards to syntax or arrangement within sentences, is verb subject. So this means that the verb typically comes first and then the one doing the verb. Let's look at the root, Allah, of this word, Alahayim. And Allah denotes strength or power and is applied to anyone or anything with power. The word has a suffix of yam, which indicates plural here. But remember, as you'll see in previous lessons and by looking at different texts, you'll find that in Hebrew, a plural suffix can denote quantity, number, or quality, importance. So in certain places, Alahayim can refer to a great God, like Yahweh, or it can refer to gods or powers under the Most High. Contextually, the text in Genesis 1 indicates that quantity is being referred to. Currently, in beginning, created God.
Khan, and this is something very important to take note to when we look at the suffix of yum. I made a slight mention of it earlier, but I want to touch on it again. When we look at the suffix of yum, it's placed on words to help indicate a plural, most of the time. But within the Hebrew language, the plural, what a plural can do is it'll either strengthen something or strengthen an idea of something within number or in quality, as mentioned, within the slide. So we have, we see in the scriptures, Yahweh, Yahweh is obviously being referred to, but we know that Yahweh is one, according to Genesis, Deuteronomy 6:4, right? Yahweh is one entity. He's the great God. He's the Most High, right? So obviously Yahweh is not plural, but a plural word can indicate or speak to something of quality or importance, right? But in other places, plural obviously can refer to quantity or number, right? And what's indicated, contextually speaking, in the book of Genesis, the first chapter, is that when we see plural, the plural word Alahayim, which is translated to God, that's speaking to a multitude of powers, right? And so at the end right here, we see that we're currently at in beginning created God, right? And so that's Badar Ashyath, Badar Alahayim, right? So that's where we're at currently, right? So next we're gonna go to the next slide, and we're gonna touch on the word off. If you could, brother, could you read the next slide where it says next?
Con. Next, we have off. And this word doesn't have a specific English equivalent, but it is used to point to an object within a sentence. So it would play the role of he in this verse. So God, he, off, is referred to as an object maker or direct object maker. Next is Hashemayam, and the first letter is the Ha, which as a prefix denotes the. So we have the and Shemayim, which means sky or heaven or heavens. Remember, the suffix yam can refer to number or importance, but context and totality of scripture is important. And we learn through both that Shemayim is referring to heavens. Currently, in beginning, created God the heavens.
Con, and just to speak to just the first part where we see oth, the word oth in the Hebrew, it doesn't, which is high or underlined right here, it doesn't have an exact English equivalent or a specific English equivalent. So it's not like we could just say, yeah, the word oth, it just means you or he or whatever. Depending on the context, it can be used in different ways. In Genesis 1, it helps indicate and points to the object. And we see that, the object is going to be masculine, right? So that's why we would see, God, that's why it's placed right here, God, he, right? Because we see that, obviously that the ones that are, doing this particular, the verb, are going to be masculine, right? And that's just a small explanation on that, right? I can go a lot deeper, but just to keep it simple, this word right here is just to help to help us indicate when we're reading the Hebrew text, who's doing what. So, in this case, it's a he, but sometimes it can be a the, or, however it's used, right? The next one we have is Hashemayim, which it could translate to heaven, or sky or heavens, right? And and no matter what it's translated to in the English, the word is gonna be Shemayim, right? Ha meaning the, and then Shemayim meaning either heaven or heavens, right, or sky. But right here is very important to look at context and take into account totality of scripture, right? And like even when you read in the book of Psalm, the 33rd chapter, I believe is verse 6, it said the Lord created the heavens by his word, right? And that's obviously in reference, that would be in reference to Genesis and other places which speak to the creation and things of those sort. And so that's why we would take in this account, in Genesis 1:1, where it says in the beginning created God the heavens, right? And most English translations actually word it like that. It says heavens. It's only one translation from what I've seen that says heaven singular, which is just a King James version, but that's just a small minute point, right? But we can move on. And any brothers, if y'all got anything y'all want to add or say, y'all definitely could chime in. But if not, if you could you just read this? Oh, Salakia, I'm sorry. And I meant to, I want to touch on the currently, right? Because I want to make sure we keep track of where we're at. So currently, we're at in beginning created God the heavens. All right. So we have Badr Ashiath, Badra'ah, Alahayim, Ath, Hashemayim. Right, so that's where we're at. Now if you could, you could read it. Slakia.
Khan. Next we have Wa'af. And if we remember prior lessons, we'll see that the Wa prefix indicates a conjunction such as and. And if we remember the picto form for the Wa, we should remember that the image was a peg that attaches two items together in the same way that and does. Af comes after the Wa, and this means that a direct object is following this word. Currently, in beginning, created God the heavens and.
Right. So, this one is fairly simple or straightforward. More so we're focusing on the Wa, because the Ath is just pointing back to Alahayim, which we already touched on. Right. So the Ath is pointing to the Alahayim who created the heavens, and eventually we're going to get to who created the earth as well. Right. But the Wa is just right here. It's used as a conjunction, which just means and right here. So this is fairly simple, right? So we're currently at in the beginning created God the heavens and. So Badra Ashiath, Badra Alahayim, Ath, Hashemayim, Wa'ath. All right, so let's move on to the next one.
Lastly, we have Ha'aratazah, which means the land or earth. Keep in mind the letter Ha, when prefixed, the meaning typically is the. Summary. In the beginning, created God the heavens and earth.
And so this was an example of how you would parse through or analyze and translate the Hebrew text. So we went from the front to the back. We started from the beginning, Badr Ashiath, Badr Alahayim, Ath, Hashemayim, Wa'ath, Ha'aratazah, which means the earth or the land. So we get out of all of that. In the beginning, created God the heavens and earth, right? So that was an example of, how you parse out the text, and Most High willing, this won't look like anything that's convoluted or complicated. This will, become easy the more, we all just, study the script and the Hebrew text itself. But being able to do this type of stuff is very, very helpful and resourceful because, for one, it helps with a grasp of, what the text is actually saying, from the original pen, right? So to speak, right? Because the scriptures, they were written in Hebrew. But two, second reason is this helps us figure out or be able to figure out, the best rendering of a translation. Being able to look at the text and parse out what a text is actually saying in its original language. That then helps us look at, certain English translations, being able to, reject certain ones and being able to, take hold to others, that are, that more accurately represent the text. All right. And so, again, in summary, we have in the beginning created God the heavens and earth. Any of you brothers got anything you want to add before we move on to this one?
I don't have nothing out.
Con. If you could you just could you read through these?
Con. 1, which is masculine, Akkad. 1, feminine, Akaf. 2, masculine, Shanayam. 2, feminine, Shatayam. 3, masculine, Shalasha. 3, feminine, Shalawash. 4, Mas, masculine, Salaki. Arabaya. 4, feminine, Araba. 5, masculine, Kamasha. 5, feminine, Kamash. 6, masculine, Shasha. 6, feminine, Shash.
Con the water. And just to specify something, a cardinal number is that's dealing with, you know, like we see here, numbers like 1, 2, and 3. So that's dealing with more so like a quantity. And then we're gonna see, you know, next ordinal numbers. You know, an ordinal that deals with positional or like order. So it'll be like first, second. You know, we'll move on to that later. You know, but we see Achad, Achath, Shanayam, Shathayam, and so on and so forth. You know, the brother already read all of them. And I'm not trying to be long with it, right? Let's continue on. And if you could just read through this one, and we can start to wrap it up in a few.
Khan. Ra'ashawan, first masculine, Salakia. First feminine, Ra'ashna. Second masculine, Shanya. Second feminine, Shanya. Third masculine, Shalashia. Third feminine, Shalayashya. Fourth masculine, Rabiah. Fourth feminine, Rabiah. Fifth masculine, Kram Yasha. Fifth feminine, Kam Yashath. Sixth masculine, Shayashya. Sixth feminine, Shayashyath.
So these are the ordinal numbers, you know, which include first, second, third, and so on. You know, the brother read through them. I won't you know, beat on the patience. So we can move on. All right, but and you know, in later lessons we'll go back through these numbers, and then we'll go through more of the numbers, right? But this is just a little introduction to counting. Next we have the word of the day. If you could you read this one?
Last class, the word of the day was abad, which translates as perish and means to be separated from the whole life or functionality. This week, the word of the day is abba, which includes the alap, bayath, and ha. This word is translated as willing or to consent. The definition is to give approval, to be in concord in opinion or sentiment, agreement as to action or opinion. Here is a verse that uses the word abba as consent below. Proverbs 1:10. My son, if sinners entice thee, consent thou not.
So as the slide mentioned, the last class we the word of the day was abad, which means to perish or be destroyed, I believe. And the definition concretely was to be separated from the whole life, or functionality, right? And so this week, we're going into, the word of the day, and the word of the day is Abba, which includes the Alap, Bayath, and the Ha or the Ha'a. And this is translated as willing or to consent, right? And so we see an example of how this word is used. And just to make it clear, when we look at Proverbs 1 and 10, this is a charge to say, or a charge to show that you shouldn't agree or consent if you're enticed by a sinner or an evildoer, which means one that's breaking the laws of God, right? But we can continue on. And if you could read this.
Next class, we will continue on with letters and words and formation of sentences, and we'll learn more numbers and more. If you want to refer to the previous lesson, click the link below.
And that's it for this week. Here are the references that we went through. The words of the day, they're going to be contained in the Ancient Hebrew Dictionary with 1,000 verbs and nouns of the Hebrew Bible, which is by Jeff Benner. All three of these are really good reads. They contain some good information, some very good stuff in there. But that's been it for Biblical Hebrew lesson 4. Most High willing, somebody got something out of it, and I pass it back to the brother Hurt, man. I'll give all praises, honor, and glory to the Most High.
Khan, I just want to say beautiful lesson. Good sound breakdown, and I think that you definitely doing your thing with these Hebrew lessons, being able to put it out plain on table so brothers and sisters can grasp hold to it. And that's pretty much what I got. Any other brothers got anything?
Yeah, beautiful lesson, King. It's definitely a lesson breakdown that we can always go back, sharpen and utilize learning the beginning of the Hebrew language. So it was detailed, providing the citation sources needed for Israel, King. Good job.
Khan, it's all praise to the Most, brother Henry. Man, you bringing out that Hebrew, brother. That's a great lesson, and it's real good to learn, to have a brother here to be able to help us to do better when it comes to learning the Hebrew and all that. Just all praise to the Most High. The water.
All praises. The water.
The water, brothers. I appreciate it. All praise to the Most High.
All praises. Yeah, brother, if you want, you can go ahead and close it out.
Con, for sure. If there'll be nothing else, I'll definitely close it out with number 6. And we can start with verse 22. And it reads, And Yahweh spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto Aaron and unto his sons, saying, On this wise ye shall bless the children of Israel, saying unto them, Yahweh bless thee and keep thee. Yahweh make his face shine upon thee and be gracious unto thee. Yahweh lift up his countenance upon thee and give thee peace. And they shall put my name upon the children of Israel, and I will bless them. And with that, I will say Shalom.
Shalom, family.
Shalom, family.
Shalom.